Welcome to our channel of IGNOU Audiobooks, Indira Gandhi National Open University. School of Agriculture, SOA. Master of Science in Food Safety and Quality Management, MSc-FSQM. Second year. MVP 005 Food Toxicology and Public Health. Block 1 Introduction to Food Toxicology. Unit 2 Biological Factors Influencing Toxicity, 2.0 Objectives. After reading this unit, you will be able to list the biological factors that affect the toxicity of a toxicants. Explain how toxicants enter the body through different pathways. Describe the absorption of toxicants in the body. Narrate the distribution of toxicants throughout the body after absorption. List various barriers, blood-brain, placental, and blood testes, which prevent toxicant distribution in specific tissues. Identify the organs, tissues that act as storage depot of toxicants in our body. Analyze how toxicants are metabolized, biotransformed in the body into polar, water-soluble forms for elimination, and explain the process of elimination of toxicants from the body. 2.1 Introduction. As you have been introduced to the basics of food toxicology in the previous unit of this course, you must be aware that food can be a source of toxins which are also known as xenobiotics. You have already studied about terminologies associated with food toxicology, various toxins and the principles of food toxicology in the Unit 1. So you know that xenobiotics are compounds which are not naturally present in an organism, foreign to the body, and usually used for domestic, agricultural, and industrial purposes. They are present in the environment in micropollutant concentrations and high concentrations, ranging from nanogram per liter to microgram per liter units. After entering into the human body, xenobiotics pass through different stages like absorption, distribution, biotransformation, and excretion, known as ADME. These are the internal processes that describe how a drug, toxin moves throughout and is processed by the body. This is also known as pharmacokinetics, toxicokinetics. So, pharmacokinetics is the study of how a drug moves throughout the body and provides important information on systemic exposure to the drug over time. It might be interesting to know that, on the contrary, pharmacodynamics is what xenobiotics do to the body. After exposure in the body, xenobiotics alter the pace of ongoing normal physiological activity. They must be absorbed into the bloodstream, transported, metabolized, and eliminated to reach target locations. Absorption and distribution introduce them, while metabolism and excretion remove them from the body. This unit will help you to learn about these processes of ADME in details. 2.2 Absorption of toxicants. Absorption is the process by which an unchanged substance moves from the site of administration or exposure into the systemic circulation like blood. For most harmful compounds to exert their toxic effects on internal organs, they need to enter the systemic circulation, except for those causing local reactions at the exposure site, figure 2. 1. During absorption, toxic chemicals from the external environment enter the body by crossing cellular barriers. The absorption of xenobiotics depends on factors such as chemical solubility, concentration, blood circulation, absorption site, surface area, and route of administration. 2.2.1 Pathways of exposure. Xenobiotics have various routes of entry into the body. These routes include the following. Gastrointestinal (GI) tract. This route is important for exposure to toxins from food and water as well as for the absorption of many medications. Although the main route of exposure for xenobiotics through food is the gastrointestinal tract, however, it's good to recognize other routes of exposure as well. Respiratory tract. Inhalation of toxins present in the environment or workplace is a significant route of exposure. Some medications, like nasal or oral aerosol inhalers, are also administered through this route. Skin, environmental and occupational exposure can occur through direct contact with The skin. Many consumer and pharmaceutical products are applied topically. Other routes primarily used for medicinal purposes include injections. Medications can be administered via injections for rapid and direct delivery into the systemic circulation like bloodstream. Implants. Some medicines are implanted to provide gradual, time-release effects. Implants are also used in various medical devices where low absorption is desired. Conjunctival installations, eye drops. These are primarily used for treating eye diseases. Suppositories. Suppositories are used for medications that may not be fully absorbed after oral administration or are intended for local therapy. Common sites of administration include the rectum and vagina. 2.2.2 Absorption of toxicants by gastrointestinal tract. The gastrointestinal GI system is a long tube that runs from the mouth to the anus. It is supported by various organs and tissues, such as the liver and pancreas. The GI system plays a crucial role in protecting the body against harmful substances and infections that are ingested. The lining of the GI system, called the alimentary mucosa, along with its supporting tissues and glands, forms a strong barrier against potential harm from foreign substances. This barrier is remarkably resilient and can withstand daily exposure to toxins. Toxins can enter the GI system through food, water, medications, and other substances. However, most toxins do not have a toxic effect unless they are absorbed into the body, except for those that directly irritate or damage the lining of the GI tract like strong acidic or alkaline xenobiotics. Absorption of xenobiotics generally happens through entire GI tract, but mostly in the small intestine. However, some medications are designed to be absorbed in the mouth or rectum and are provided as sublingual tablets or suppositories. However, the absorption of chemicals through the mouth and rectum is usually negligible. The absorption of a toxin in the GI tract depends on its physical properties, such as its solubility in fats and its rate of dissolution. A highly fat-soluble chemical is unlikely to dissolve in the watery fluids of the GI tract, thus limiting its absorption. Similarly, a solid toxin that is relatively insoluble in GI fluids will have minimal contact with the GI lining and a low absorption rate. Most substances are absorbed in the GI tract through nonionic diffusion across the lipid layer of the GI epithelial membrane. Some inorganic and organic icons, sugars, amino acids, and pyrimidines are transported through specialized active mechanisms. Stomach acid can dissolve a toxicant, enzymes in the GI tract can transform it, and the local microbiota can convert it into new molecules with different toxicity compared to the original chemical. The stomach is an important site for the absorption of weak acids which are nonionized and fat-soluble. In contrast, weak bases become strongly ionized in the acidic stomach environment and are poorly absorbed. In the intestines, weak acids predominantly exist in their ionized form, making them less easily absorbed. However, once they enter the bloodstream, they become ionized and cannot easily diffuse back. On the other hand, weak bases predominantly exist in their non-ionized state, making them more absorbable. Absorption in the intestines is a dynamic process, influenced by factors such as prolonged contact time, the large surface area provided by the villi and microvilli, and the rate of blood flow, figure 2. 2. The villi and microvilli greatly increase the surface area of the small intestine, making it highly efficient in absorbing weak acids. The presence of food can hinder chemical absorption. Chemicals may undergo transformation into new compounds with different toxicity through the action of acids, enzymes, or the intestinal microbiota. Some foreign substances are absorbed through the same specialized transport systems used by nutrients, which can lead to interactions or competition for absorption. For example, lead can be absorbed through the calcium transporter. Concerns have been raised about the potential toxicity of nanoparticles While the absorption of larger particles is typically limited, the GI tract of rats can absorb up to 30% of nanoparticles with a diameter smaller than 50 nanometers. The gut-associated lymphoid tissue is believed to be the primary absorption pathway for nanoparticles from the GI tract. The presence of food, digestive enzymes, bile acids, and the pH, motility and permeability of the GI tract also affect the absorption of xenobiotics. For instance, proteinaceous snake venoms are significantly less dangerous when ingested because they are broken down by digestive enzymes in the GI tract. The presence and function of the GI microflora can also influence species-specific absorption of xenobiotics. The gastrointestinal tract is home to numerous bacteria, with strict anaerobes being the most abundant. Bacterial metabolism is essential for the absorption of certain xenobiotics. The differences in the type and quantity of microorganisms in the GI tract can lead to species-specific variations in absorption. Transporters in the cells of the GI tract play a role in either facilitating the absorption or preventing the efflux of chemicals from the cells. Additionally, a chemical can undergo biotransformation by the cells of the GI tract or be taken up by the liver and excreted into bile, with or without prior biotransformation. This process, known as pre-systemic elimination or the first-pass effect, occurs before substances enter the systemic circulation. Biotransformation will be discussed in later part of this unit. Substances with a high first-pass effect are rapidly removed, resulting in a low absorption rate. 2.2.3 Absorption of toxicants by lungs. The lung alveoli are indeed the primary site of absorption in the respiratory tract. Gases and vapors, such as carbon monoxide, nitrogen oxides, sulfur dioxide, benzene, and carbon tetrachloride, can be rapidly absorbed in the alveoli due to their large surface area, strong blood flow, and close proximity of the alveolar air to the bloodstream. The thin cell membranes of the alveoli facilitate the quick passage of gases and particles, allowing for efficient absorption. Different portions of the respiratory system have varying levels of absorption. In the nasopharyngeal region, absorption is minimal due to the thickness of the mucosa and the rapid movement of gases and particles. Gases that are relatively soluble can reach the bloodstream quickly, while most deposited particles are returned to the mouth and ingested. In contrast, absorption in the alveoli of the pulmonary region is highly effective. Gases or particles that are somewhat soluble can be rapidly absorbed into the systemic circulation. The nature of toxicity depends on whether inhaled substances are absorbed or remain in the alveoli and bronchioles. 2.3 Distribution of toxicants. After absorption, the process of transferring a xenobiotics from the bloodstream to tissues is referred to as distribution, figure 2.1. The same principles that govern absorption, g. ionization of a drug, lipophilicity of a drug, size of a drug, pH of the environment, etc., also govern the rate and extent of drug distribution to various tissues in the body. The concentration of a xenobiotic agent in blood depends largely on its apparent volume of distribution. The concept of volume of distribution, VD, is essential for understanding how toxins are distributed in the body. It represents the volume in which a drug must be uniformly dissolved to achieve a specific concentration in the blood. If a substance is mainly distributed in the plasma compartment with little tissue distribution, its plasma concentration will be high, resulting in a low VD. Conversely, if a chemical can diffuse throughout the body, its effective plasma concentration will be low, leading to a large VD. However, the distribution of toxicants is complex and cannot be simply equated with dispersion into one of the body's water compartments. Factors such as binding to tissues or storage in organs like fat, liver, and bone have a significant influence on the distribution of chemicals. Commonly, Drugs bind non-specifically to albumin in the plasma. When drugs bind non-specifically to proteins, their movement is limited. The extent of protein xenobiotics association influences the distribution of many xenobiotics. The xenobiotic bound plasma protein cannot cross capillary walls due to its high molecular mass, thus the availability of these protein binding sites usually decreases the toxic effect of xenobiotics. In addition to protein binding, there are multiple barriers that prevent distribution of toxicants to the highly privileged organs such as brain. Some of them are as below. 2.3.1 Blood-brain barrier. The blood-brain barrier, BBB, is mainly formed by endothelial cells in the brain's blood vessels. These cells create tight connections, preventing the passage of polar substances between them. Xenobiotic efflux transporters in endothelial cells restrict the diffusion of lipophilic substances. While the BBB is not an absolute barrier, it represents a relatively impermeable region compared to other body parts. It protects the brain by removing toxic substances from the endothelium and supplying nutrients and other necessary compounds. The entry of chemicals into the brain depends on their attachment to plasma proteins and their ionization status. Non-ionized and lipid-soluble substances have better access. 2.3.2 Placental barrier. Understanding the transfer of chemicals across the placenta is vital due to the potential harm they can cause to the fetus, including fetal deaths and birth defects. Chemicals mainly cross the placental membranes through simple diffusion, while carrier-mediated transport is limited to endogenous substances. The lipid-water partition coefficient is a key factor in determining placental translocation. Additionally, the concentration of chemicals in fetal tissues depends on the tissue's ability to concentrate them, which can be influenced by plasma protein concentration and binding affinity for specific chemicals. 2.3.3 Blood-testis barrier. The blood-testis barrier is formed by tight connections between the cells that separate the blood from the fluid compartment in the seminiferous epithelium, lining of the tubule of testes. This barrier is crucial in protecting the germ line from internal and external toxic substances and plays a role in preventing autoimmune orchitis, inflammation of testes, and protecting germ cells from mutagens in the environment. 2.4 Storage of toxicants in tissues. After distribution through the systemic circulation, chemicals reach to different tissues and bind to them, leading to an increase in their concentration in those tissues. There are two main types of binding, covalent and non-covalent. Covalent binding is irreversible and often associated with significant toxicity. On the other hand, non-covalent binding, which is reversible, plays a crucial role in the distribution of toxins throughout the body's organs and tissues. The storage of toxicants in non-target organs can be seen as an initial protective mechanism. However, chronic release of these stored toxins into the body over time can result in chronic intoxication. The distribution of a xenobiotic is greatly influenced by its binding to specific constituents within the body. For example, carbon monoxide binds strongly to hemoglobin, leading to high concentrations at the site of action. Some chemicals may concentrate in areas other than the target organ. For instance, lead is deposited in bones but can cause toxicity in soft tissues. These concentrated sites are referred to as storage depots. As the body biotransforms or eliminates the chemical, more toxins may be released from these storage depots, resulting in a long biological half-life for the stored substances. 2.4.1 Plasma proteins as storage depot. When a chemical is bound to plasma proteins, it is temporarily confined and less likely to cross biological membranes or diffuse into tissues, resulting in diminished toxicological or hazardous effects. Albumin is a prominent plasma protein known for its ability to bind various foreign substances, but other proteins like globulins, lipoproteins, transferrin, and Ceruloplasmin also play a role in binding and storage. Factors such as pH fluctuations and hormonal influences can affect the binding of foreign substances to plasma proteins. A tightly bound chemical will have a longer duration of effect. In toxicology, the binding of drugs to plasma proteins is significant for two reasons. Firstly, the unbound fraction of a xenobiotic is usually responsible for its toxicity. A drug with high plasma protein binding may have reduced toxicity compared to one with low binding. Paradoxically, a high degree of protein binding can increase the risk of adverse effects when interacting with other highly bound substances. Displacement of a toxin with high protein binding by another chemical can increase the free fraction of the toxin in plasma, leading to higher concentrations in target organs and enhanced toxicity. Understanding the binding of xenobiotics to plasma proteins is important in predicting their pharmacological effects, assessing toxicity, and evaluating potential drug interactions. 2.4.2 Liver and kidney as storage depots. As liver and kidney are highly capable of binding chemicals, these are the major sites for the concentration of toxic substances. Through processes like active transport and binding to tissue components, these organs accumulate more toxicants than any other organ in the body. The liver quickly binds foreign compounds, as seen in the rapid uptake of lead, where liver concentrations can be 50 times higher than plasma within 30 minutes. Specialized proteins, such as metallothionein, MT, play a role in binding xenobiotics in the liver and kidney. MT binds both essential and harmful metals like zinc and cadmium, CD, facilitating their concentration and sequestration, while the CD-MT complex in the liver prevents cadmium excretion. It is highly toxic in the kidney and contributes to cadmium's chronic toxicity. 2.4.3 Adipose tissue is storage depot. Highly lipophilic foreign substances possess the ability to rapidly penetrate cell membranes and distribute into tissues. As a result, it is not surprising that these lipophilic toxicants tend to accumulate and concentrate in body fat, where they can persist for extended periods. For example, organochlorinated pesticide like DDT can get stored in the adipose tissue for long time. Toxins are believed to accumulate in fat through breakdown within neutral fats, which constitute a significant portion of body weight, especially in obese individuals. Thus, obese individuals are more likely to retain larger amounts of toxicants in body fat. Storage in fat reduces the concentration of toxicants in target organs, and that leads to potentially less severe toxicity in obese individuals compared to lean individuals. But a notable concern is the potential for a rapid increase in blood and target organ concentration if fat is rapidly mobilized. Studies have shown that short-term fasting of animals previously exposed to persistent organochlorine insecticides can induce symptoms of poisoning, highlighting the significance of fat mobilization in toxicological outcomes. 2.4.4 Bone as storage depot. Hazardous substances like fluoride, lead, and strontium are primarily stored in bone, with approximately 90% of lead found in the skeleton. However, these substances are not permanently sequestered in bone tissue. Through processes such as ionic exchange and osteoclastic activity, toxins can be released from the bone. Increased osteolytic activity, breaking down of bone, such as induced by parathyroid hormone treatment, can accelerate the mobilization of these substances, leading to higher concentrations in the bloodstream. The deposition and storage of hazardous substances in bone can have both harmful and non-harmful effects. Chronic effects, such as skeletal fluorosis from fluoride deposition and osteosarcoma, bone cancer, from radioactive strontium are well documented, while lead does not pose harm to bone. 2.5 Metabolism, biotransformation of toxicants. Metabolism, biotransformation is a vital process in the body. It is a series of enzyme-catalyzed processes that alters physiochemical properties of foreign chemicals, xenobiotics, and converts mainly hydrophobic chemicals into hydrophilic molecules for their elimination. It plays a crucial role in maintaining physiological processes and defending against harmful substances. Lipophilic toxins, which are absorbed quickly through the skin, gastrointestinal tract, and lungs, pose a challenge for removal as they can accumulate to dangerous levels. However, biotransformation can convert these toxins into hydrophilic metabolites that are less likely to penetrate vital cell membranes, aiding in their elimination. The process of biotransformation occurs in two phases, i.e. phase 1 and phase 2 reactions. This results in the generation of highly polar metabolites that can be easily eliminated from the body. Numerous biotransformation, metabolizing enzymes with broad substrate specificity, facilitate the excretion of various toxic substances. Two groups of metabolizing enzymes are presented in the Table 1. Table 1. Xenobiotic metabolizing, biotransformation enzymes. Look at the screen. Water-soluble toxicants and their metabolites can undergo dissociation into ions or become ionized in biological systems. Ionized compounds, including hazardous metabolites, are more easily transported across cell membranes. However, biotransformation can occasionally generate intermediate or final metabolites with hazardous characteristics not present in the parent molecule. The liver, housing a high concentration of enzymes involved in biotransformation, is the primary organ responsible for bioactivation. It plays a significant role in converting xenobiotics and bodily wastes into less harmful compounds that can be eliminated from the body. This emphasizes the liver's importance as a defense mechanism against toxic substances. 2.5.1 Phase 1 Transformations. Phase 1 biotransformation plays a crucial role in converting toxicants by either exposing or introducing a small polar group in the molecule. It involves oxidation, hydrolysis, and related processes that convert hydrophobic compounds into more polar substances. After phase 1 reaction, an intermediate metabolite is formed, which contains a reactive chemical group such as hydroxyl, O, amino, NH2, or carboxyl, Cu. The resulting metabolites from phase 1 reactions are often sufficiently ionized or hydrophilic to be readily eliminated from the body without the need for further biotransformation. However, in many cases, the reactive sites alone do not provide sufficient hydrophilic characteristics to the intermediate metabolite for easy elimination from the body. So, they may proceed to phase 2 biotransformation. 2.5.2 Phase 2 Transformations. Phase 2 reactions involve events where polar functional groups, like glucose or sulfate, are added to the phase 1 products for further increasing their water solubility. These reactions, known as conjugation reactions, result in the formation of conjugate metabolites that are more water-soluble, polar and hydrophilic, than the original toxicant or phase 1 metabolite. This conversion into polar and hydrophilic metabolites facilitates their efficient excretion from the body through urine or bile. If phase 2 reactions are not efficiently carried out, the accumulation of reactive phase 1 metabolites may pose a risk to the organism. One of the most commonly added compounds during phase 2 reactions is glucuronic acid, which is directly attached to the toxicant or its phase 1 metabolite, forming a conjugate metabolite, glucuronide, that is highly water-soluble and easily eliminated from the body. Table 2. Phases of biotransformation. Phase 1 reactions, Phase 2 reactions. 1. These are non-synthetic or non-conjugative reactions. These are synthetic or conjugative reactions. 2. Include reactions like oxidation, reduction, and hydrolysis of xenobiotics. Include reactions like conjugation of xenobiotics or their phase 1 metabolites. 3. Small polar functional groups, O, NH2, COOH, SH are either added unmasked to form phase 1 metabolites. Endogenous substances like glucuronic acid, sulfate, glutathione, amino acids etc. are added to form phase 2 products called conjugates. 4 result in inactivation, bioactivation, or no change in activity of toxicant. Generally, result in inactivation of toxicant metabolite. 2.6 excretion of toxicants. Toxins undergo elimination from the body at different rates, and their half-life, T1/2, is a widely used measure of elimination speed. Elimination can occur through various routes, which are discussed below. The main routes of excretion are through kidney, feces, and lungs. 2.6.1 Urinary excretion. The kidney is a highly efficient organ responsible for removing toxins from the body. It consists of nephrons, which are the functional units of the kidney. Each nephron comprises a glomerulus, a capillary tuft that initiates blood filtration, and tubular components in the renal cortex and medulla that generate and concentrate urine. The kidney eliminates toxic compounds using the same mechanisms it employs for eliminating end products of metabolism. The 3 main processes involved in toxin elimination by the kidney are I. Glomerular filtration, E. Active tubular secretion, and E. Passive tubular reabsorption. The degree of plasma protein binding affects the rate of glomerular filtration because protein xenobiotic complexes, particularly those bound to albumin, are not filtered. Lipid-soluble molecules in the non-ionized glomerular filtrate are reabsorbed back into the bloodstream, while substances with limited lipid solubility are only partially reabsorbed. Chemicals that are more ionized in urine than in blood plasma tend to permeate from the blood into the glomerular filtrate across the tubular epithelium. The urine's pH plays a significant role in the excretion of weak organic electrolytes. Weak acids are readily transported into urine when the urine is more alkaline than the plasma, whereas weak bases are readily excreted when the urine is more acidic. Thus, renal excretion of weak organic electrolytes is highly dependent on urine pH. Passive diffusion of toxic substances from plasma into tubular urine is possible but is generally less important compared to filtration and active secretion. Filtration is much faster than passive diffusion through the tubules, creating a favorable concentration gradient for reabsorption rather than excretion. Active tubular secretion involves the transport of toxicants from the blood into the cells of the renal proximal tubule, followed by their efflux into the tubular fluid, which eventually forms urine. It is important to note that the elimination of xenobiotics in neonates may be slower compared to adults due to the incomplete development of certain kidney functions at birth. This slower elimination can make certain xenobiotics more harmful to newborns, as they may persist in higher concentrations. 2.6.2 Fecal excretion. The second primary route for xenobiotic elimination is fecal excretion. Toxins can be excreted via feces as a result of direct removal of non-absorbed substances in the GI tract. Transport to the GI system via the bile, or enterocyte-mediated release into intestinal luminal contents. 2.5.3 Non-absorbed ingesta. Along with undigested material, non-absorbed nutrients and xenobiotics present in food are deliberately consumed substances, such as drugs, pass through the digestive tract and contribute to fecal elimination. While most compounds have some degree of lipophilicity and potential for absorption, complete absorption is uncommon. Certain macromolecules and high molecular weight substances that are highly ionized may not be absorbed. As a result, a significant portion of orally administered substances can be found in the stool. 2.6.4 Biliary excretion. The biliary route eliminates xenobiotics and their metabolites through fecal excretion. The liver serves as the primary site for the metabolism of most chemicals, allowing the molecule and its metabolites to be directly expelled into the bile without re-entering the bloodstream and undergoing elimination by the kidneys. The xenobiotics and their metabolites eliminated in bile ultimately reach the colon and can be excreted through feces. As the hepatic excretory system in neonates is not fully established, certain substances can be more toxic to infants than to adults. The chemicals excreted into bile are commonly substances like sodium, potassium, glucose, mercury, thallium, cesium, cobalt, bile acids, bilirubin, lead, arsenic, manganese, aniline, albumin, zinc, iron, gold, and chromium etc. Even chemicals that are not significantly concentrated in bile can be quantitatively excreted through this route. For example, although mercury is not concentrated in bile, it is still primarily eliminated through this pathway. 2.6.5 Lungs. Lungs mostly excrete gaseous substances and volatile liquids by expired air. Because of their accumulation in adipose tissue and the limited ventilation space, highly soluble liquids such as chloroform and halothane are expelled slowly. Toxins are eliminated from the lungs through simple diffusion across cell membranes. Carbon dioxide is exhaled through the lungs as a byproduct of the breakdown of molecules into their components. 2.6.6 Other routes of elimination. Cerebrospinal fluid. The cerebrospinal fluid represents a unique channel for removing hazardous substances from central nervous system. Milk. The secretion of harmful compounds into milk is important for two reasons. 1. They can be passed from mother to nursing infant through breastfeeding, and 2. Compounds can be transferred from cows to humans through dairy products. These harmful substances enter milk through simple diffusion. Milk's acidic pH, around 6.5, leads to higher concentrations of basic chemicals in milk compared to plasma, while acidic compounds tend to have lower concentrations in milk. During lactation, lipid-soluble xenobiotics diffuse with lipids from plasma into the mammary glands and are excreted in milk. Metals that are similar to calcium, like lead, and chelating compounds that bind to calcium can also be eliminated in significant amounts through milk. Sweat. Many chemicals, including persistent organic pollutants, heavy metals, bisphenol A, BPA, and pH phthalate are excreted in sweat. The role of the sweat glands in eliminating waste products and toxicants from the body seems to be minor compared with other avenues of breakdown, liver, and excretion, kidneys and GI tract. 2.7 Summary. This unit helps you to understand how xenobiotics, or medicines, following exposure through food follow the ADME, absorption, distribution, metabolism and excretion, process. Absorption refers to the transfer of a chemical from a surface, either external or internal, into the systemic circulation, i.e. bloodstream. Once in the systemic circulation, toxicants undergo processes such as biotransformation, excretion, and storage. The toxicants can be stored in the body in different tissues, organs like liver, kidney, bone, adipose tissue and with plasma protein. Biotransformation is a metabolic process that converts both endogenous and xenobiotic substances into more water-soluble molecules. This transformation is primarily carried out by a number of enzymes in two phases. Phase 1 reactions are characterized by hydrolysis, reduction, and oxidation. These reactions introduce or expose functional groups like hydroxyl, O, amino, NH2, sulfhydryl L, SH, or carboxyl, Cu, resulting in a minimal increase in hydrophilicity. Phase 2 biotransformation events involve conjugation processes such as glucuronidation, sulfonation, sulfation, acetylation, methylation. These reactions further increase the hydrophilicity of the compounds, promoting their elimination. Excretion involves the removal of xenobiotics, foreign substances, from the blood, allowing their return to the external environment through urine, feces, exhalation, and other pathways. Thank you for watching. We will see you in the next video with the next chapter.